There's this script we've all been handed. I think it's in the movies we watch, the books we read. Maybe it's even hardwired into our biology somewhere. It's the idea that intimacy, specifically sex, is a conclusion. It's the Hollywood ending. The camera pans out, the music swells, and because the characters have crossed that physical line, the narrative is resolved.
The tension breaks. The relationship is sealed.
Exactly. It's the happily ever after mechanic. We treat sex like a gavel banging in a courtroom.
Yeah.
Decision made.
Case closed.
Right. But if you actually, live in the real world and not in some rom-com, it's rarely how it works. You cross that line expecting everything to snap into focus, and instead you find yourself in a fog.
Often a very dense, disorienting fog.
And that is exactly why we're doing a deep dive today. We're looking at this fascinating, slightly haunting essay by the writer and philosopher Pedro Malha. It's titled, What Sex Left Unanswered.
And that title alone is, it's a little confrontational.
It is. Because we usually look at sex as an answer, don't we? An answer to, do they like me, or are we compatible, or is this going somewhere?
We do. We treat it like it's data acquisition. If X happens, then Y must be true. But Malha, he just flips the script entirely.
So I should say up front, this isn't dating advice.
Oh, not at all. And I want to be really clear about that. Malha isn't going to tell you how to get the text back or how to define the relationship or, how to win the breakup.
Which is refreshing, actually. I think we have enough how to win the breakup content out there.
It is. Instead, he's conducting what he calls a philosophical investigation. He's looking into the internal weather that follows intimacy, that strange suspended state where the body has disengaged, the act is over, but the self is still just waiting for something that hasn't arrived.
Internal weather. I love that phrase. It captures that unpredictability. You don't know if it's going to rain or shine. And he starts the essay with this incredibly vivid image. That door, the moment right after sex ends. He describes it as a door that has been opened without any agreement about what it was meant to lead to.
It's such a precise metaphor. Picture a door just standing ajar in a hallway. It's not inviting you to come further in. There's no welcome mat, no one waving you forward, but it's also not slamming shut in your face.
You're just standing there,
yeah,
staring at an unentered room. The encounter has undeniably altered the space. You can't pretend the door is closed anymore, but you have absolutely no idea if you're allowed to walk through it.
None.
That is a very specific, uncomfortable feeling. And I think that's our mission for this deep dive. We aren't here to solve the mystery of relationships. We're here to explore why sex often creates more questions than answers.
And how on earth we navigate that unansweredness that just hangs around.
So to get into that, we have to start with what Malha calls the myth of clarification.
The big lie.
The big lie, yeah. Society tells us sex clarifies things. It clarifies desire, power dynamics, connection. You sleep with someone, and the assumption is, now you know where you stand. It's the ultimate litmus test.
Precisely. But Malha argues sex is actually an agent of chaos. It often introduces uncertainty where there was coherence before.
What do you mean by coherence?
Well, think about it. Before the encounter, you might have had a stable friendship or a clear, fun flirtation. There were rules. You knew how to act.
Right. You knew the boundaries.
Yeah.
We're coworkers who flirt near the coffee machine. That's a script I can follow. It's safe.
Exactly. But afterwards, Malha writes that sex, and this is the line, rearranges emotional furniture without asking permission.
I literally stopped reading when I hit that. Rearranges emotional furniture. Because that is viscerally what it feels like. Can we just dig into that a bit?
Of course. I mean, imagine walking back into your own living room, the living room of yourself, your life, and the sofa has moved 3 feet to the left. The lamps are different. The flow is all wrong.
You walk in and you're just bumping your shins on things in the dark because the layout has totally changed.
Yes. And practically speaking, that means the jokes you used to make don't land the same way. The silence in the elevator feels heavier. Eye contact carries a different weight.
And you didn't ask for this remodel.
You did not. And here's the key insight from Malha that I think really matters. The encounter doesn't resolve the tension between two people. He says it redistributes it.
Redistributes it.
And
so instead of the tension being this fun, concentrated thing like sexual tension, which can be exciting, it spreads out.
It metastasizes. It moves into areas of your life that were previously untroubled. Maybe before you could look at this person and just see a colleague. Now that tension has leaked into how you interpret their silence.
Oh, man. Into how you read their emails.
Mm-hmm.
Is that period at the end of the sentence aggressive?
Is it? It leaks into how you view yourself in the mirror, What seems settled, it starts to flicker. It's like a drop of ink in a glass of water. It just changes the color of everything.
But one thing Mala points out, which I found really validating, is that this feeling, this unansweredness, it isn't always immediate.
Right. It's not like you wake up the next morning filled with existential dread. Sometimes you wake up feeling great.
Yeah. And this isn't regret.
No, we have to distinguish this from regret. Regret is, I wish I hadn't done that. Mal is talking about something much more subtle. He says this feeling often emerges later. It's a delayed reaction. He describes it as a thought that does not know where to land.
Or a memory that returns without context. He calls it an unfinished sentence.
And that's so frustrating, isn't it? It sits adjacent to your daily life. It's not absorbed into your story, but it's not rejected either. It just exerts this low pressure.
And out of that pressure, these specific haunting questions start to bubble up. Questions that simply would not exist if the sex hadn't happened.
Like the ones he lists. What did it mean that they stayed?
What did it mean that they left?
What did it mean that nothing changed?
Those are killer. But he also asks, what did it mean that something did change? And that one seems contradictory to me. If something changed, isn't that an answer?
Not necessarily. Imagine the dynamic shifts, but nobody acknowledges it. You're suddenly awkward around each other. The change is undeniable. The energy is different. But the reason for the change is silent.
The why is missing.
The why is missing. And these aren't questions you ask because you expect an answer. You aren't going to text the person and ask them.
No, because that makes you look crazy or needy. Yeah. And we are terrified of looking needy.
We are. So the questions, they arise as conditions of being altered. They shape your mood without offering a forecast. You're just walking around carrying this giant question mark, and it colors your entire day.
Which brings us to maybe the most destabilizing part of this whole thing, the asymmetry. Because all of this internal weather we're talking about, you usually have no idea if the other person is feeling it too.
This is the disconnect. Mala calls it a subtle misalignment. It's the sense that something was shared without a mutual understanding of its weight.
So one person might carry something away from the encounter that the other person didn't even know they gave.
Or even worse, the realization that nothing was carried at all, that you're the only one holding the bag.
And that the act is just stranded in your own private isolation.
Exactly. And Mala points out, this doesn't mean someone was lying or being manipulative.
I feel like we always want to jump to that, though. We want a villain. If I feel bad, they must have done something wrong. They used me. They played me.
It's a defense mechanism, isn't it? Yeah. It's easier to be angry at a villain than to just sit with ambiguity. But Mala suggests it's often just an uneven distribution of meaning. Yeah. Two people can live through the exact same event and leave with totally different emotional payloads.
Which leads to that quiet, devastating question. Did it matter?
Did it matter? And we don't mean, are we getting married? We just mean, did this register? Did I leave a trace? Or did the experience just dissolve the moment it ended?
That is the fear, isn't it? Being dissolved, being ephemeral.
It is. And when you don't know the answer, the self is left holding an experience that feels too charged to just throw away, but too indeterminate to really honor or frame.
Right. You can't put it in a picture frame on your mantle, but you also can't just toss it in the trash like a receipt.
And Mala draws this really sharp contrast between the state of unansweredness and just straight up rejection.
Which sucks. Nobody likes being rejected. But he argues rejection is actually easier.
Much easier. Philosophically speaking, rejection is stabilizing. Rejection defines a boundary. It says, this is where we stand. The answer is no. You can grieve that. You can process it.
You can tell your friends they said no, and everyone knows what to do. They know how to comfort you.
Right. But silence, or a lack of acknowledgement, that leaves everything suspended. It leaves the experience, in his words, unmoored from shared reality.
Unmoored from shared reality. That sounds almost like a psychological break. It's like you're gaslighting yourself. You start to wonder, did that even happen the way I think it happened? Does it exist if they don't acknowledge it?
And that disorientation forces you to imagine all these parallel interpretations. You play out scenarios. Maybe they're scared. Maybe they forgot. Maybe it meant nothing. Maybe it meant everything, and they're just overwhelmed.
But none of them can be verified, so you can't choose one with confidence. You're lost in the woods without a compass.
You really are.
Okay, I want to pivot here. Because so far, we've talked a lot about the relationship between two people. But one of the most profound points Mala makes in this essay isn't about the other person. It's about the ghost of the potential self.
Ah, yes. This is a beautiful, if somewhat melancholic idea, and it requires us to look inward. Mala suggests that during sex, a specific version of the self emerges, a version that is maybe only possible in that unique space of intimacy.
I think I know what he means. Maybe you were bolder than you usually are, or more vulnerable, or just softer. We all have this armor we wear for our day-to-day grind, right?
We do. But in that moment, for a little while, the armor comes off. You access a different way of being, maybe a version of you that's more adventurous or more trusting. And when the encounter ends, and that door stands ajar but unentered, that version of you disappears.
You can't locate it anymore. It doesn't come back with you into your daily life.
No. And so the ache we feel, that lingering sadness, it's not necessarily that we are missing the partner.
You're missing the version of yourself that was briefly possible.
That's the crucial distinction. You're missing the potential that was accessed and then withdrawn. You ask yourself, who was that person? Where did they go? Were they even real?
That resonates so much. You replay the tape, going over fragments of the night. And Mala says, we don't do this for pleasure. We aren't reliving the good times just for the fun of it.
No, we're searching. We're searching for coherence. We're trying to locate that missing self. But the repetition, it doesn't bring insight. It just confirms that the encounter resists interpretation.
And sometimes this whole process, it unearths things we weren't ready to see. He talks about unwanted revelations. That sounds a little ominous.
It can be. I mean, sex can expose a truth you didn't even know you were holding. Like, oh, wow, I really need to be taken care of, or I have a capacity for closeness I didn't know about.
Or I am much, much lonelier than I admitted to myself.
Oof. Yes, the encounter rips the Band-Aid off. You were fine being lonely when you didn't realize how lonely you were, but once you taste that connection, the loneliness feels so much sharper.
And that's the crux of the problem, right? The encounter reveals the want or the vulnerability, but it offers no guidance for how to live with that knowledge.
None. You are left holding a truth without a context. It's an opening that remains open.
It's like someone handed you a map to a treasure, but the map is in a language you don't speak, and also they just walked away. You're just standing there holding the paper.
A perfect analogy. And this feeling is amplified when the encounter itself was intense. This is what he calls the burden of excess.
The burden of excess. This is the "but we talked until 4 a.m. argument. I've been there.
Yeah.
You think, we shared our deepest secrets? Surely this means we're soulmates.
Exactly. When the chemistry is off the charts, or the conversation flows deep into the night, the mind struggles to reconcile that depth of feeling with nothing, with an absence of outcome.
We want physics to apply to emotions. Action and reaction. If I push this hard, the wall should move.
But when it just dissipates without explanation, the experience refuses to be translated into a lesson. It just is. And then there's the timing. The why now? Why this person? It feels like an interruption.
He compares it to a sentence that doesn't belong in the paragraph of one's life.
Yes. It's a deviation that doesn't resolve into coherence. You have to keep writing the story of your life. You have to go to work, pay bills, see friends, but you have this rogue sentence in the middle of the page that doesn't fit the narrative flow.
And you can't erase it. It's written in ink. And often there's this sense of, I don't know, unfairness isn't the right word, but disparity.
Emotional consequence. That's the term Malha uses. He points out that even in fully consensual encounters where both people had agency, the aftermath can be wildly uneven.
But one person moves on, untouched. The other remains altered.
And there's no tribunal for this. There's no one to blame. You can't call the police of feelings and say, hey, I care more than they do. It's just a recognition of that disparity.
Yeah, there's no language for it. You can't balance the scales. You can't demand they feel what you feel.
And trying to force them to acknowledge it usually just makes the silence louder.
So, here we are. We have the open door, the rearranged furniture, the rogue sentence, the ghost self, the imbalance. It sounds overwhelming. So, I have to ask, does Malha give us a way out? Does he tell us how to fix this? How do we close the door?
This is where the essay moves from observation to philosophy, and the short answer is no. No, there's no solution because Malha doesn't view this as a problem to be solved.
Okay, hold on. We are programmed to fix uncomfortable feelings.
Yeah.
If I have a headache, I take an aspirin. If I have emotional unansweredness, I want a resolution. I want to clear the air.
I know. But Malha argues that sex leaves unanswered what it does not contain the capacity to hold. The act itself opened emotional territory that exceeded its frame. It gestured toward meanings that it just couldn't sustain.
So we're trying to force a gallon of emotion into a pint-sized glass.
Yeah.
And it spills over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the self is left holding that excess. But Mala insists that there is no final reckoning. There's no moment where the clouds part and everything makes sense. You don't arrive at peace, and you don't remain in conflict. You simply continue.
You continue. You learn to live with the residue.
He calls it an unclaimed presence. It becomes part of your ongoing life. It's not a wound. That's a very important distinction. It's not an injury that needs to heal. It's just something that was added that doesn't integrate.
It brushes against your awareness every now and then. It reminds you that not everything you experience will be understood.
That is a hard lesson for the human brain. We crave pattern recognition. We crave synthesis. But Mala is saying that some things remain without explanation, without synthesis, and without any final shape at all.
It's almost a radical acceptance of messiness. Not the fun, chaotic kind of mess, but the deep, quiet, structural mess of being a person who interacts with other people.
Precisely. The goal isn't to force the door shut or to kick it wide open. It's to learn how to walk past the open door in the hallway of your mind without needing to stop and stare at it every single time. To accept that the unansweredness is a condition to inhabit.
That is weirdly liberating. It takes the pressure off. You don't have to solve the mystery of what did it mean. You just have to carry the question.
And perhaps realize that carrying the question is part of the depth of the human experience. It shapes you, even if it doesn't inform you. It adds texture to your character.
This has been such a heavy but strangely beautiful deep dive. Pedro Malha's What Sex Left Unanswered really forces you to look at those quiet moments after the intimacy fades. It gives language to something I think we've all felt but couldn't quite name.
It does. It validates the confusion. It tells you that the fog isn't a mistake. It's part of the weather.
If you're listening to this and nodding your head, thinking about a specific door left ajar in your own life, well, at least you know you aren't the only one standing in that hallway.
Indeed. We're all navigating that rearranged furniture.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We've talked so much about the search for answers, what the other person thought, what the relationship is. But maybe the most profound impact of intimacy isn't what is shared or resolved. Maybe it's simply the specific, silent questions it forces us to carry alone. Because those questions, the ones that have no answers, they are the ones that tell us who we actually are.
A provocative thought, and one worth sitting with.
Thanks for diving deep with us. See you next time.